So I've had a lot of questions in regards to this here, which is the Teclast F7 Pro. So a couple of days ago I posted the unboxing video and I've been using it now for 2 days, and I'll just give you some feedback on that because I've been getting so many questions about this. People asking me about the screen protector on the display, the battery life, the thermals, how it is, should they get it instead of the Jumper EasyBook Pro. I'll try and cover that here before my full review, which will be coming out next week. But this is just for you guys that keep really asking it all the time about questions, getting so many messages. Please do not message me on the forum, by the way, asking me any questions about this. I will not answer you because I'm just overloaded at the moment. So a lot of you have been asking me about the display, just how it is. Is it better than the Jumper EasyBook 3's display? Well, on camera you can see it's getting this shimmer, this flickering that's happening. I can't seem to record this screen properly without that happening, so it's not happening in person. So you don't need to worry about that. Now, to those guys who keep saying remove the screen protector on it, I believe, well, according to some in the comments, that does actually have a pre-applied screen protector. The trouble is, on my unit, I have been searching and there are no visible edges of a screen protector, like nothing around here, nothing in all the corners. It could be the fact that it's under this plastic bezel. In order to get it off, I'm going to have to pull up this bezel and I could risk damaging it then. Now, I tried a knife in this corner here, and even then, even using some tape on the screen on the corners, I could not pull a screen protector off it. So I cannot 100% confirm if it does have a screen protector on it. But the layer that I did pull off it, that was numbered number 2, and normally that's the first layer you take off and then the screen protector is on there. So it could well have a matte screen under this, which is really good. Good news, because I prefer to have an anti-glare screen. So to those asking about the microphones either side, yes, they actually do sound a little bit better than the Jumpers. They still have some static over them, and the camera more or less is about the same. So 720p 30 frames per second performance. But I'll give you a sample of that in my full review coming out next week. And to that guy, Hassan, I think his name was, asking about Counter-Strike, will it play the bots on 720p? Yes, the bots are set to easy mode, but you can see the frame rate's going to dip. At the moment, it's around 3 frames per second. When you start out here, and depending on what you're actually doing, the frame rate will dip down. So at the moment, it gets down to about 24 frames per second. So it can be a little bit stuttery and choppy. But if you disable the power limits in the BIOS, then at least it will be playable here. So you can practice Counter-Strike on the go there. And there have been quite a few questions about thermals on this. Do we have to do a copper heatsink mod on this? Well, we don't actually. Now, I have disabled the power limit. Now, the factory set limit in there is 9 watts, which is quite a lot. I think Jumper set 7, and other manufacturers, in fact, only set about 6 watts. Now, I've completely removed it, so no limit. And thermals are some of the best I have seen. Okay, we get up to about 74 is the highest I've actually seen it get. Now, it will get warm to the touch, but here after 22 minutes, this was Counter-Strike against the bots, and it's only got up to 64 degrees. Now, other laptops with the same chipset, the N3450, would be reaching now, without any power limits, right up into the 80s. So I will investigate in the final full review next week. I'll take a look at the internals, but I do believe they have put a very nice large copper heatsink on there and a thermal pad probably transferring heat to the rear. So we'll get warm to the touch around about 35 degrees or something like that, but that's not an issue, a problem at all. So excellent thermals on this unit. You do not need to worry about that. Now, battery life is a very common question. I've been able to get here, you can see, this was my test actually with YouTube. So this was 2 hours of streaming 1080p YouTube with the screen brightness at 30%, which is still good for indoors. And I managed to get 2 hours. So it looks like it's going to be about the same as the Jumper EasyBook 3 Pro, but it's not actually. It's probably about an hour less in total. Now, one of my other tests here, which is, this is my final score. This was my first cycle of the battery. I managed to get almost 8 hours, which is really good. But recent battery life tests, I'm only able to get about 6, and that was what I would call more mixed use. This was light use here. Mixed use I got at the moment. Well, I'll have a look at the battery meter to zoom into that for you. So you can see here that it's been on for 3 hours and 41 minutes, and that was since 100%. So it's looking about, I would estimate now, well, it's estimating 7 hours and 33 minutes, but really it's probably about 6 to 7. So most people will get around 6 hours, 6.5, depending on how heavy you're using it. Bear in mind as well that I do have the power limit disabled. So the power limit's probably the reason why we're not getting the same battery life as the Jumper EasyBook 3 Pro, because that has a limit set to 7 watts. If you disable it or you put it to 9 watts, then that does give you more power, but of course reduce battery life. Now it also charges quicker than the Jumper EasyBook 3 Pro. It has a maximum charge rate of 14 watts, almost 15 watts. And you see here the EasyBook 3 Pro charging this one now, it tops out at 11.4 watts. So we get quite a few extra watts there, so that's why it charges a little bit faster, but I'll give you the results of that in the final review next week. And here it is side by side with my EasyBook 3 Pro. So you can see the tint on the EasyBook 3 Pro, that bluish tint on the whites and more of a neutral white on the F7. Now the F7, I've got the screen set to 100% brightness, so that's why it looks washed out on camera. It's me trying to get rid of that flicker that's being picked up. So I'll show you what happens when I drop down the screen brightness. You can see you get a lot of that pulse width modulation flicker that you only see on camera. Now when looking at the keyboards here, as I mentioned when I first unboxed it, my first impressions were the keyboard is better than the Jumper EasyBook 3 Pros, and yes, it is definitely. They are very similar keyboards, the travel is similar as well, but this just feels better. The feedback you get from these keys is overall nicer, and I haven't had any typos. Someone else asked about that. Does it have any missed keystrokes? No, none whatsoever, but I don't have any problems with my Jumper EasyBook 3 Pro's keyboard either, because this is the version 4, which has, I feel, the best keyboard on it. Later revisions, some of them did have issues. Some people posted in my forum, they said that their keyboard, they're getting lag on it. No lag, no issues with that. Oh, and another question that also arose was SSDs. Will it take 512? Yes, my King Spec 512 SSD will work in the F7. It also works at my Jumper EasyBook 3 Pro and a 256GB model that from Transcend that I've got in here currently, that is also working. So no issues running SSDs on the F7. Now obviously a 219 US laptop is going to have some cons on it, so it's not all perfect with this notebook, neither of these. Now the cons so far that I have encountered in 2 days of use with the F7 is the fact that the speakers, when it's fully charged at 100%, emit a tiny little bit of static, but as soon as you unplug it, there's no more static, and occasionally you do get a pop noise comes through the speakers when no sound has been played for a while, and suddenly you get a Windows notification noise. It will do like a pop, and then you hear the notification noise. So that is a minor little con here, and as I mentioned with the dual array microphones at the top, that there is also a tiny little bit of static that comes through, but overall they pick up sound better than the EasyBook 3 Pro. The screen also has a little bit of what I would call IPS glow around the top and the edges. You only see it really with the same color being displayed, or white, so you get a tiny bit of that glow and that light bleed, but really it's quite minor. Overall the screen is better than the one that is in the EasyBook 3 Pro. Now this panel, someone asked for the ID of it. I looked it up. It's a Sharp panel that it's using, so a proper known brand 14.1 inch IPS panel that's in this. Okay, so yes, after 2 days, it's very clear to me that this is a more of an enhanced version over the EasyBook 3 Pro. Not that the EasyBook 3 Pro is a bad laptop. It is last year's best budget laptop. And this one just slightly improves on literally most areas. A better keyboard, better touchpad. It's slightly lighter. We have a slightly better screen. The webcam, the mics on it seem to be a little bit better to me. The location of them, at least, is much better for picking up sound. And then, of course, we have a faster charge time. And we have better thermals, higher power limit, unlocked BIOS. You know, the list does go on a little bit there. So the only real setback maybe is the battery life. To me, it looks like it's going to be about an hour less. Now, my Jumper EasyBook 3 Pro, I can get 8 hours out of it, and it looks like it's, as I mentioned before, like 6 to 7 on this particular model, and I believe it's because of that higher power limit. So if you're worried about that, if you set it down to 6 watts, restricting the performance a little, then you should be able to get 8 hours. In fact, I've been able to get 8 hours on my light web test just using Edge. So there we go, guys. Hopefully this video was helpful and useful to you. I do hope to catch you back with my final opinion, which will be in the final review here of Teclast's F7 coming up next week.